Shield K9. So today we are going to talk about defense, drive, and protection training. We're going to define it, we're going to talk about what it is and how you use it. So if you haven't already watched my video on the prey pyramid, I strongly suggest you watch it. And the prey pyramid, as you can see, I've created this wonderful diagram, very professional. This prey pyramid is the part here on the top. So we have the arousal, the pursuit, the grip, and the possession. I'm not going to get too far into detail on these because we've already discussed it in another 30-minute video, which I strongly suggest you watch. I have now expanded on the prey pyramid to include a couple of other components that are essential in your understanding of a dog and what innate drives they bring to the table and how to manipulate those drives in order to develop a complete dog. And for most trainers, the completeness of a dog is when you reach this place, active aggression. Active aggression is confident, proactive, dominant, a dog that knows how to win the fight, and a dog that enjoys the fight, and a dog that is very forward and proactive in his or her behaviors. This applies whether you're doing sport, police, personal protection, whatever it is you're doing. Everybody's looking for active aggression. We might call it different things, but active aggression is the happy place for the vast majority of dogs if you're doing a discipline like this. So the fence is right down here. You can see it, okay? The prey pyramid is up here, so the blue writing is the prey pyramid. I put defense in red, and then right next to it we have social aggression. Now you'll notice that in my little pyramid here, I created a metaphysical ground layer, so to speak, so that's this black line, okay? And the reason why I did that is, for me, defense is under the ground, so to speak, the metaphysical ground, all right? Defense is a reactive behavior. Same with social aggression. For me, social aggression is a primarily reactive behavior. The prey, once we start getting into the prey-based behaviors, prey-based arousal, pursuit, grip, and possession, we're in proactive behaviors. And there's nothing wrong with reactive behaviors, except that they can't be the totality of what the dog is if you want something that's going to be useful and deployable. All right? So, the defense, basically, as I define it, is the dog's perception that you or something, that the decoy or the suspect or whoever the bad guy is represents a legitimate threat to the dog's safety and well-being. And the dog is reacting in that mindset, that this person is a legitimate threat to me and I need to drive the threat away. If you think about the defensive mindset, and this is why it has a bad reputation in protection training circles, and why many people have mistakenly attempted to either avoid it, or you see some cowboys on the internet, you know, they get a little bit too excited about defense because it's a big show, so to speak, so they actually kind of seek it out a little bit too much. And you know, it's one of those things where it's dangerous to avoid it, but it's also dangerous to push too much into it. And I'll explain why, all right? The defensive mindset is the mindset of get this threat away from me because the threat could hurt me. Now you can see why that might be a problem if you want to be to active aggression. However, every dog, I would say 99% of dogs have defense to some degree, greater or lesser. And if you ignore it, it is a fundamental building block of the foundation that if you're trying to reach this pinnacle and you've only worked in the prey pyramid, right? And your dog has never been shown defense, and some situation occurs, something unexpected occurs, and I'll give you an example of this. And your dog gets thrown into defense, and you've never taught the dog how to cope with this emotion, your dog falls apart. Your prey, it doesn't matter how good his his arousal is, how fast he is, how strong his grips are, how good his possession is. If you haven't worked on this and he has this, and you haven't addressed that emotion properly, and something throws him there, this whole thing, the whole foundation is not good, and the whole thing will fall apart. I'll give you an example. A sport dog. Sport dog only goes on the sport field. There's blinds, there's jumps. It's very recognizable. He only goes on the field and works on the field. The bad guy for him is the guy, he's wearing the helper pants, he's got the sleeve, he's got the whip, right? He does the whole helper dance. This is a situation in which he is very used to the situation, and he goes flawlessly through the prey pyramid, okay? Now you take that same dog, you take him in the woods, you walk him for 10 minutes, he's relaxed, he's just having a good time, and now all of a sudden, somebody jumps out of the bushes. He's not wearing anything, he doesn't have a stick or anything, and he starts approaching you in a threatening and slow manner. And he's not acting like a decoy, he's not wearing anything. The dog has never seen this before. He actually has a fair bit of natural defense drive, but he was never shown how to deal with it. And the dog actually goes, whoa, 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 and goes into that avoidance, defensive behavior. And if the threat keeps coming, the dog turns around and runs. Because again, he was never taught to deal with that emotion. All right, place. Don't ruin my lecture, I'm talking. Anyways, point being, this is an essential building block, and a lot of dogs carry this, okay? Now, of course, some dogs, they don't have much natural defense in them, and that's fine. It's still something that you address, but you don't need to spend too much time on it, all right? But for some dogs, this is a huge component of who they are, and it is a big mistake to not go through this drive and to not properly address this drive. A very good trainer who I've had the privilege to work with recently said that defense is the most powerful emotion. It overwhelms prey. So even if you have a dog who has fantastic prey drive, if you don't address that defense, your whole thing will fall apart, as I've already said. This trainer, by the way, I'm going to shut him out because you know what? He has some fantastic videos on protection training, on the theories of protection, and probably a lot better, well, definitely a lot better than mine. Check him out. His name is Marco Cosconsalo. I think he has a website, canemo.com or something like that. C-A-N-E-M-O. Check him out. He's a world level guy, a legitimate guy. You'll learn a lot, following him and learning from him. Anyways, back on defense. You'll notice also there's some other key components to this pyramid that I've created under the metaphysical ground, okay? We've got defense and we've got social aggression. For me, social aggression is aggression that is motivated by dominance, and aggression and the reason why I put it next to defense with a bit of a dotted line here is because social aggression and defense are very close together, and they can kind of start to blend, all right? You get some dogs, they just don't like people, okay? They're not afraid of people, they just don't like people. Just kind of like some human beings. They don't like people. And if you push them a little bit, you challenge them, you look them in the eye, they say, hey man, keep doing that, I'm going to hurt you. It's a reactive behavior, but it's not so much based in fear, right? And just quickly, let me jump back to defense, because I know I'm jumping all around. The reason why a lot of protection trainers are afraid of defense, or a lot of people doing byport are afraid of defense, is because they think, okay, the grips aren't going to be good here because the dog is almost in a state of avoidance, or in some cases, depending on the dog, in a complete state of avoidance, all right? And I would say that's a big error, because again, you're playing this game where you're hoping you never end up here. I'm just going to build all my pyramid above the ground, and I'm going to hope that I never end up below the ground. And that's a very dangerous game to play, and in many cases you see these dogs get exposed in certain situations. So I would not suggest that. Now, what is this guy doing? Don't touch this thing. Anyways, social aggression for me, like I said, is very close to defense. You can have dogs that are more to the social aggression side and less to the defense, and you can have dogs that are more to the defense side and less to the social aggression. All right? And you can have dogs that are kind of nicely balanced. Here's why it's important though, other than what I talked about. This is a source of arousal. So you notice for me, arousal is the beginning. Arousal is your power. It's your power bar. So if you have a dog who's really defensive, but you say, no, I'm not going to use that because I'm scared of this emotion. I'm only going to work in the prey-based arousal. Well, now you're losing a lot of the power, the natural power that the dog has. So my young dog here, Gage, he has a fair bit of natural defense drive and also a fair bit of social aggression. When he's younger, because he's young, he's 10 months old, there's more defense and less social aggression. As he gets older, you're going to see that pendulum kind of swing. That's a huge source of power. Okay? And what we need to do is we need to channel that power up into the arousal. Right? So we always think we're moving up towards active aggression. This and this are not to be ignored. These are sources of big power. Okay? So if your dog has it to a greater or lesser degree, address it and train the dog to come through these emotions into this emotion. I'll give you an example. I recently trained a Malinois who was very high on social aggression. Super high on the social aggression. He was a naturally, like, you could walk him on the street, he wouldn't care about you. But if you challenged him just a little bit, he would come for you and he will bite any part of your body, and it wasn't a lot of training involved to make him like that. That was just who he was naturally. Which brings me to another point, but let me first finish this. He had a ton of natural social aggression. So again, from a reactive standpoint, he wouldn't just go and nail somebody just because. Very reactive, strong, dominant dog. Not too much in the way of prey, ironically. He had some, but not too much. What we did was we taught him to put all that power from his social aggression up into prey arousal, up into the pursuit, up into the grip, and into the possession. And we were then able to greatly improve his performance in terms of pursuit and biting, right, and grips, and so on and so forth. So, because we addressed it, we didn't ignore it, we didn't try to avoid it. A lot of people, they just kind of go, oh, I'll just pray him out, I'll just make it a big game, it'll be lots of fun. And this is a big mistake. You do that, you're losing a lot of power, and also you're running the risk. If I did that with this dog, I only kept it in prey-based behaviors. At some point, something would have tripped him into that social aggression, and he would have lost his clarity. He would no longer be able to perform to the level of active aggression that he was capable of when you took him properly through the pyramid, so to speak. Now, underneath the pyramid here is nerves, okay? Obviously, nerves, all these things, whether it's nerves, defense, social aggression, arousal, pursuit, grip, possession, these are all genetic traits, but you can enhance them and you can also detract from them with good and bad training. All right, so it's important to understand that. And dogs are blessed with different levels of proficiency in these traits. So you'll have some dogs right out the box, essentially, firm, full, hard, natural, strong grips, and natural, good aggression. And really maybe super fast into the grip, but maybe they have a lower arousal. They have trouble getting going. But once they're going, okay? Or you have a dog who has a really strong arousal, and then maybe not so fast, and then maybe chewy grips. But then once they're there, they hold on, you know, and they really want to possess it. They chew it, but they want to possess it. I've seen all versions, whatever combination you could think of, I've run into it. All right? So there are dogs that are blessed with different areas. Now, nerves for me are the biggest genetic factor in them all, okay? Assuming you have a working dog, has some level of prey drives, has some level of defense and social aggression, the nerves are the major determining factor to how high you can take the dog, all right? Yes, the drive is important, especially if you're doing sport work, and of course for police work as well, but the nerves for me are the most important thing. That's why it's primarily what I test in the puppies. All right? The environmental nerves. If you have a dog who has environmental nerves, I don't care how good he bites, how good his arousal is, how good his possession is, you're going to go into a new place, he's going to fall apart. So what good is it? Right? The nerves are so important. Now, you can improve nerves with exposure. I think a lot of people probably, though, place a little bit too much credence in how much you can improve the nerves with exposure. Exposure is important. But look, if your dog's seen something a couple times, that should be enough. If your dog needs to be exposed, you know, for his entire first year, 2 years of his life, good luck to you. I don't think that's going to be much of a dog at the end of the day. You're going to keep running into new things that he's afraid of. He might get used to that set of stairs, but guess what? You take him to a new set of stairs, he's going to fall apart. Same with floors, same with noises, so on and so forth. So the nerves are so important. It's the bedrock upon which all of this is built. But anyways, getting back to defense, because that is the primary subject matter here. We need, with a dog in defense, we need to take the dog through this emotion. So I will intentionally expose young dogs that we're developing and puppies to this, especially if they have a strong natural defense. And this is one of the things, you know, again, I strongly encourage you guys, check out Marco. Marco is a fantastic, I'm going to try and interview Marco. I don't know if he's going to accept an interview with me, but I'm going to try to interview him because Marco for me he just revolutionized a lot of what I do in terms of protection and obedience. And I'm not saying this is Marco. Marco I'm sure does this, well, I know Marco has some different stuff going on, and you know, like I said, I'm sure whatever he's got going on is better than me. So check Marco out. But this is where I'm at right now. This is how I'm operating. So if you're interested, I'm just sharing this with you. Now, you're going to run into some dogs, right, I said, where you need to develop them through this. If I see that the dog is very defensive, even if it has prey, I'm going to show it the defense. I'm going to say, hey, and I like doing boogeyman's for defense, right? So I'll take a puppy out in the field, put it, you know, in the back of the field, and then I'll kind of come out and be a little bit sketchy, and if the puppy barks at me, I run away, right? Same thing with a younger dog, a young adult dog, and I'll do some boogeyman's with them, just to kind of teach them. There's no sleeve, there's no whip. Maybe there's a whip, depends on the circumstances of what I'm training, but there's not much, and my goal is to not even get close to the dog. My goal is for the dog to run me off, okay? And this is how I like to start kind of any defensive work. And then of course, as you're developing the dog, you can come up with more and more ingenious scenarios. You're walking through the woods and suddenly somebody jumps out and just stands there. Or somebody comes out covered in a tarp or something like this, and then the dog needs to go through the whole pyramid to get to the active aggression stage, and maybe there's a grip and maybe there's not. But this kind of gives you an idea. Now, you're going to run into, if you train a lot of different dogs, which we do here, you're going to run into dogs that are blessed, like I said, genetically with different kind of things. So like this here is an example of the pyramid with a good well-bred Malinois, right? A nice Dutch Malinois, let's say. Really a lot of prey, okay? And then underneath the line, we've got the nerves, a nice big bedrock of nerves, and a small amount of defense. It takes a lot to get him defensive. Okay, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. No, it just means that you should do it, address it, and then move on, because here is his happy place. Here's where he's comfortable. Here's where the majority of his strength is. If you try to push him too much in defense, you can actually cause a problem. Okay, so this is where the skill and the knowledge comes into play. Defense, and now this is an example of maybe your typical Mastiff. Tons of defense, maybe a little bit thinner on the nerves, right? And very low threshold to get into defense. He easily is tripped into defense, and he has a lot of power in the defense if you're using it properly, but maybe not so much prey, just a little bit on the surface there with the prey. So you're not going to get the same gripping and speed out of the Mastiff that you are out of the Malinois. And if you've trained any number of dogs, you know that for the vast majority of dogs this is the case. For me, this pyramid is a little bit more representative of a high-quality German Shepherd, a nice balance of drives, all of which can be tapped to create power, both in the guarding and in the gripping. All right? So I'm going to attach to this video some videos also of some dogs that we're training to show you kind of a little bit about the working the dogs through this emotion. I don't have any like purely defensive dogs right now. I have a German Shepherd I'm going to show you. Her name's Storm, and she has a fair bit of defense and social aggression, and we're using that. And the problem with her, and you'll see in the video, she has a very strong grip and a good possession, but the arousal and the pursuit are weak. Because in her training foundation, they only trained her in the prey pyramid. They never took her down into defense and social aggression. And she has a fair bit of this naturally, okay? Maybe a little bit more defense and social aggression. And we are tapping into this, teaching her to come through this into that, and then all the rest of it. So you can see the dog struggles with arousal. She's kind of passive until you kind of get in her face and like, hey, let's do something here. I'm going to hurt you if you don't do something. Then she's like, okay, let's do something. I'm going to hurt you, right? And then we're able to take her through this, but we're starting to teach her, be more proactive. Don't wait till I'm in your face. The handler says watch, and I'm 30 feet away, 40, 50 feet away. Become active there and start bringing power there. Don't wait till I'm in your face cracking my whip or doing whatever it is I'm doing. And a lot of dogs, that's the danger with defensive training and social aggression. They become too reactive, and decoys, they initially get a good response from getting in the dog's face and doing a lot of stuff. And then that stimulates them, and they're like, oh wow, look at this big show the dog is putting on. So they keep going back to it. But what you notice is the actual progress of the dog decreases because the dog becomes more and more reliant on all of that stimulation. And if you do it enough, and if you go a little bit too hard, you can actually break the dog or create a significant lack of clarity. So a lot of these guys on Facebook and stuff, they talk about real dogs and civil aggression and this and that. And I watch their training. They're doing a lot of stuff like this where they've got the dog back tied to the wall and they're beating him with a whip or something. And there's not enough relief for the dog, and you see the dog losing clarity, and very low in the arousal, not active, very reactive, and losing clarity, and the grip quality, and the pursuit, and the possession is all garbage. Because they got a big show from the defense and the social aggression, and they thought to themselves, yeah man, that's some real shit, and they focused on that, and then they ended up, you know, with a very half-assed product. But they still, you know, will post it, because they don't know any better, they haven't. Once you know better, you do better. And, you know, for me, this is where I'm at in my understanding. I always want proactive behaviors, okay? But I don't want to neglect the foundation that brings the strength, the true strength into these behaviors. We see a lot of dogs that are very, maybe sporty dogs is what people call them. And they're dogs that are only in this stuff. And even in this stuff, they're kind of substandard because they actually have this, but nobody's addressed it. And nobody's trained the dog to bring that seriousness into the work. So anyways, guys, I hope this lecture helps you, and I hope the preceding videos of us actually working the dogs help you. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe. Also check out our sponsor, Eric Outdoor. I know my pants are dirty, but hey, I train dogs for a living, so of course my pants are dirty. Eric Outdoor USA, use promo code SHIELD10 to save 10% off your next purchase. They make some fantastic clothing for dog training. Thanks for watching.
Okay guys, we start here with a young Preza being developed for IGP work. Now this is a dog that we've taken through defensive and social aggression up into the prey pyramid a bunch of times, so you can see it's pretty easy for him. Now I'm just warming him up by letting him bark me back. Nice rhythmic barking. He's not too crazy one way or the other. Good rhythm, and here I reward him with a prey transition. You can see he's a little sticky, which means he doesn't transition as fast into the prey as we would like, which is typical for dogs that are more defensive, like the Preza. And now he's on the bite, so I reward him with a big fight and let him feel kind of big and strong doing it, and then he gets to carry. We worked hard to promote the carries with this dog, which are important for dogs like this. I'll get into maybe the why of that later. So again, some pressure on the dog, making good arousal and barking, and then taking all that arousal into a completely prey-based behavior like an escape. All right, and you can see he nails that escape. He could jump a little bit higher, but for a press, I'm quite happy with the escape. And again, good commitment from the dog. Now making a little bit pressure here, and again now transitioning this into a behavior. You notice there's always a pause in the transition because we just have to kind of set the dog up here, but using that arousal and that frustration to create a dog that comes forward and offers a prey-based behavior like an escape or a long attack is important. You know, people that watch this that don't know what they're looking at say he's barking at the sleeve. Believe me, this type of dog, you know, you drop the sleeve and you just get in his face with no whip, nothing. He'll bark at you and try to bite you. So you can see me using a long line to frustrate the dog. And what do you think I'm working on here? I'm working on the pursuit, of course, because this type of stuff is going to make him faster. It's going to frustrate him, and he's going to really start to commit 110% to the long attack, and he'll take some helpers down, hopefully. So again, making some pressure on the dog, and coming back, using that defensive pressure to generate a little bit of power, okay? And now you're going to see that we give him an actual bite, and watch the speed of the dog. It's consistent all the way through, and, you know, he hits and he bites. Good commitment from the dog. Could, again, jump a little higher, but we can work on this. Now you see the next dog. This is Storm, the female I was talking about, and this is a dog, an excellent example. Listen to the barking. It's just not very good barking, right? And the reason why is because she was not allowed to be who she was in her foundation training. They trained her like a prey dog, but this dog has a fair bit of defensive social aggression that was not properly tapped. And that's why she's at half power. But once we tap that properly, you're going to see as she gets closer, the barking improves. And it's not because she's closer to her prey object, it's because she's closer to the pressure that I'm exerting, and it has a little bit more of an impact. And now we reward her with a bite for good barking. But the most important thing for me is not to create big barking at a distance, good arousal at a distance. What I actually want to create is some arousal at a distance, because in the beginning when we were working her, she didn't want to be in a state of arousal at a distance at all. We had to get close in order to get some arousal out of the dog. So teaching her to be proactive, because proactive is the name of the game. Again, rewarding her with a big bite and a big fight, and letting her have that carry to kind of relax and process and possess object that she won. So again, you're gonna see we choke the dog off the sleeve in order to build a little bit more frustration. Okay, and then I get in on her and listen to the barking. Now look at this barking. Different kind of barking, right? Because I'm helping her find out who she is, and I'm allowing her to be who she is, and then I'm gonna reward that power. Oh, don't go passive on me, sweetheart, because I can get back in your face real quick. Be who you are and stay who you are. Don't be something else. And this is because people played sleeve games with her instead of really allowing her to be who she is and using the sleeve as a tool instead of a pacifier. Okay, so again, making the barking, promoting some with a little bit of pressure, promoting the good behavior, and then when she offers the right behavior, allowing her to transition into an attack. And always the dog moves forward and I move backwards, and when she uses her power, I go away from her, or she gets to come and bite me, and she gets to chase me and push me around. And when she loses power, I come in on her, and you're going to see that theme repeated over and over again. Again, that holding of the sleeve, especially when you're doing work like this, it's important to give the dog a moment to process, to focus on the success of the grip, and allowing her to feel success in just holding the sleeve. And later on you can make the sleeve the man, but that's a topic for another day. So you are going to see again.
Let her carry a bit more this time now. She needs a bit more of a break. The carry is really important because it provides the dog with a sense of accomplishment, that she's successful, and it promotes the idea that the grip is the ultimate form of victory. That can be transferred very quickly onto the man when the dog is in the right emotion. But we want a dog, she's still, maybe to the uninitiated, she might look like she's where she needs to be. She still has not reached active aggression. She needs more arousal in order to get to active aggression. And
okay, last rep. You'll notice the sleeve comes out of her mouth. Immediately I cut in on her, put some pressure on her. And you see the barking's a little bit lackluster. The dog's a bit tired. I'm being passive here, but then watch this. Oh, active. And then you see the barking become a little bit more intense, and then I allow her to push me back to pick up the sleeve. She's passive again, thinks I'm playing. So now I show her. Oh, there it is. I can become active, right? And now she's active, but then she loses it, becomes a little bit passive, so I apply a little more pressure. And then when she's showing me what I want, I retreat, and then we make a little bit more barking. Oh, and again, show her that activity pushes me back. Here I make a lot more distance, and I know she's going to struggle here. And I'm showing her with pressure and release that if she gets passive on me, I come in and put the pressure on her. She needs to bring the fight to me, or I bring the fight to her. And you can see that she's struggling with this because she's tired, and I'm putting a little more pressure now to really push her. And the second she shows a little activity at that distance, I rewarded her by allowing her to come in and have the success of the grip.
I'm not going to be active unless you get close. So now I said, okay, I know you're tired. I'm going to go a little farther, and I'm going to make you active. And when you don't react with the correct, that's good enough, with the correct level of activity at a distance, I knew she would struggle there. I went farther and I said, I'm far, still be active, still be proactive. And she said, I want to be passive now because I'm tired and I'm not that excited anymore. And I said, okay, if you're going to be passive, I'm going to get active and I'm going to get on you. So then you could see I did a few times. Then on the third or fourth time, at a distance of maybe 10, 15 feet, she said, okay, I'm going to stay active. And then we rewarded her with the ability to close the distance and bite. This is a dog that has a fair bit of defense and social aggression, but the danger of the dog not being able to channel that up into the prey pyramid is reactivity. So we always are using different methods to try and push the dog into a state of proactivity, where she is trying to win the fight and engage the decoy even at distances. You see this with a lot of reactive dogs. When you're far, they don't want anything to do with you because they don't really want you. Whereas dogs that are 100% in the prey pyramid, those dogs want you all the time. If you're far, they're still they're still trying to get you. Okay, so she needs to learn that balance. She's either, if she needs you to be basically in her face for her to be active, and that's just because she was not developed properly. She was developed like a prey dog, but in her heart she has good prey and good grips, but nothing extreme. The strength comes from the social aggression and the defense in this dog, and it's a combination of both. As you can see, she's not particularly afraid of me, so you can't say that she's exclusively in defense. And if I push her a little bit, you can see she becomes ga 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 ga. And believe me, if I stuck a hand there, she would bite me, and probably bite me quite well. It's just a question of bringing the dog up into a more, from the reactive side into the more proactive side, and that's just repetition, repetition, and showing her different circumstances where she learns, just not only on the field, in the woods, in the city, wherever it is that we need the dog to be deployable in, we're showing her the same routine. Go from, you know, go into that active aggression, go to that pinnacle and get there fast. So this dog is a work in progress, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys the example. I don't think I have any purely defensive dogs right now, but you can, we'll show you another example and you guys can see. All right, that's good.